So our third speaker in the Australian segment accesses a vast field of consciousness, which is expressed in the world through the topics and themes of free energy, sacred geometry, science paradigm shifting, sound healing, and ancient wisdom. So through the sacred geometry and a deeper knowledge of the sacred language of numbers, Roman brings back the simplicity of the ancient wisdom into our modern civilization. I met Roman all the way back in 2013, and I actually was hitchhiking out in the middle of nowhere in Australia, and it was one of those synchronistic alignments. And during the ride back to Sydney, which was about 10 hours, I got the full 10-hour sacred geometric and number lecture. So everyone's definitely up for a treat with the wisdom that Roman has received through the source intelligence. So today's topic, which Roman Light will be sharing with us all, is what does our future hold? Spirituality or the lack of it? And we'll be exploring the deep mutation of our world that has been predicted for centuries. So welcome to the show, Roman.
One of the most fundamental questions that I always asked myself since I was very young was about the structure of reality, what reality is. And I was always fascinated with the idea that reality wasn't something that tangible, something that wasn't that real, seems to be real, but wasn't actually real. And it took me days and years to actually go through the journey of understanding what the structure of reality actually was. And I came to the questioning of what science and spirituality are, because first of all, I've always been a very logical and coherent person, but there was always something that was missing in the scientific approach. And so it just strikes me one day to realize that science and spirituality are actually the same things. They're just two sides of the same coin. And so I'm starting to share this knowledge with a lot of people. So it all started with numbers, the number theory. So I was starting to research numbers, because one of the most fundamental questions that I had since I was very young was why, because my parents make me do some violin courses when I was 4 or 5 years old. And so my experience of violin was that when frequency increase, there's a cycle that is going on, and that cycles is looping. So after do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, then do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si was happening again and again and again and again. But through the number theory, when I count on my fingers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, 10, those numbers never come back. It's always numbers that are different which are coming back. So 11, 12, 13. And one day it just strikes me that maybe we have the wrong perspective on numbers, and we actually see repeating patterns that we are not identifying through the decimal system because of the decimal system. So the decimal system is giving us a perspective that things are separated by creating that illusion of separation. But if we're just changing a little bit the perspective and, for example, rename the number 10 as 1 and 0, so 1 and 0 is 1, because 1 plus 0 equals 1. And 11 was actually 1 and 1, 2, and 12 is actually 1 plus 2, 3. Then in that case, we're starting to see a looping sequence happening that is matching our experience of reality, our perspective. So when you look around in creation, you actually see that everything is submitted to cycles. So after spring is autumn, after autumn is after spring is summer, after summer is autumn, after autumn is winter, and so on. We can see those cycles are happening over and over and over. However, the way we measure things is trying to deny the cyclicity of things. And this is a major aspect of the deception that we're going through at the moment. We don't see how everything is actually interconnected through cycle and patterns. Those who study a little bit of sacred geometry knows that everything is based on geometry and fractals and resonance. But those who haven't are not really aware of that. So when the higher self Expo came to me and and asked me to do a talk about the idea between sovereignty, between science and spirituality. The way I would like to help people to understand that both of them are just two sides of the same coin is to just share some of the things who seems to be contradictory, but which are just contradictory because we do not have the right perspective. So, for example, we think that science is real and spirituality is not real, only because we have been programmed to look at reality through the prism of the senses and the experience, the sensorial experience that we can have of reality. But there's many experience of reality that we have that are not that physically or real in that sense. For example, emotions or just even thoughts, just by starting with thoughts. We all have thoughts in our minds. We all hear things in our minds. We all remember things. We have memories. None of them are real or tangible the way we've been programmed to see. However, no one can deny their existence. You just have to close your eyes and remember a positive experience, or if I just say the word cake or music like the Beatles, you will start to hear this music in your head. You will start to have these pictures. Or if I'm asking you, just remember like a good moment that you had in your life, this momentum was coming back in your mind. Can I deny the existence of this experience just because I cannot physically, tangibly observe this myself? Only because it's happening in your mind? No, I can't. I cannot deny that, because this is what human experience is all about. It's a physical, and so it's a tangible and an intangible experience. It is both. And so what I would try to share with you today is that perspective that both can exist simultaneously. Like, you do not have to see a separation between science and spirituality. So just to start with, the perspective that science is observing physicality or tangible things is an interesting statement, considering that science is really struggling to define the realm of reality. Science is struggling to just even define the notion of matter. So they are defining matter through its designation, as if designating something would explain something. So it's not because you designate a car that you can explain how a motor is working. Okay, there's a fundamental difference between naming something and understanding the mechanics of something. The same way science is today giving names and names and names and names to atoms and protons and neutrons and photons and ions, and there's many ons all over the place. But it doesn't mean that because you're naming something you understand something. So when science says that it is observing reality, and trying to explain reality, that there's a fundamental difference between leaving something, and leaving something is being in the experience of being something, of experiencing life, and talking about this experience. So a very simple example is every time that you're doing a task that is absorbing yourself, where you don't think about anything, you're just fully absorbed by this task. You are not capable of talking about this task. To be able to talk about this task, you need to stop being in that task. And it could be anything. It could be a building, it could be painting, it could be gardening, it could be singing, it could be... And this is a time when you actually lose yourself, in a sense. You're losing your mind, you're losing, like, you don't think anymore, you become something, you become what you do. And this is the difference between being yourself and becoming something else. So when you're acting, for example, you have to forget your identity and become another identity. When you have to talk about what you just did, if you have to speak about what you just did when you acted, when you did some acting, it is a totally different experience of being the actor when you act. And we are not enough familiar with this concept. We are not enough familiar with the difference between the state of being into something and the state of talking about something. So science is basically talking about things. Science is taking a picture and telling you, oh, this picture is reality. A picture is a picture. A picture is an image of reality. It is not reality. And we need to always remember that a picture is only an image of reality. You would have taken that picture 5 seconds before, or you would have taken that picture 5 seconds after. You would have had a completely different story that is unfolding. So we need to always keep in mind that there is an inertia in reality, in the way reality is moving. And for example, we're saying that we have a new bodies every 7 years, for example. But how that is that we have a new body every 7 years and we remain slightly the same every day. There is something very bizarre in that statement, that we are losing billions of cells every day and we still are the same in sort of things. Like we are getting older, we're aging, for example, but we roughly are staying the same. Science is observing reality in a certain perspective and saying that this is reality, not considering that there is a slightly change that is happening every single day and that we're moving towards something that may actually be totally different, that we are not completely aware of, just because that change is happening very slightly. A lot of spiritual people over the last few years have all witnessed that, for example, time seems to go faster. If you all are submitted to time, how would you be able to measure time? And I'm not talking about time as a clock, like the clock is always the same, it's always going to measure time. I'm talking about the experience of time. A lot of people have witnessed that things seems to accelerate, not in the time itself, because time is a constant, but in the way we are witnessing and we are submitted to time. And this is the total difference between measuring time, which is done by a clock, and the experience of time, which is done by a human experience, which is totally relative. And this seems to be the difference between science and spirituality. Science is trying to explain things based on ratios. And this is why we talk about rationalism. Rationalism is coming from the roots ratio, but a ratio is something that is compared to something else, that is measured according to something else. So that notion of ratio, rationalism, is to bring back everything to what is comparable. But how would you compare an idea against another idea? That is your mind. For example, if you have to compare the idea of a souvenir, a memory that you had when you were young with another one, who outside of yourself would be able to do that? Who would be able to rationalize putting a ratio, comparing something that is internal? And this is not possible. This is the realm of the inner world, of that which is inside, compared to the world of the outer world, that is that which is outside. So science is trying to be the referee of the outside world, telling you what is and what isn't, what can be observed, so what can we consensually accept as universal truth, and what is not. And it's very complicated to do that, because universal truth only happen in a universal spectrum. But we are not living in a universal spectrum. We're living in a relative spectrum. We're living in a reality where we are sharing an information. We all, for example, agree or disagree to what we observe. So someone will see something and someone else will come and see something else, because we're all having different perspective. The best example being, if you pouring some water into a glass, do this glass is half full or half empty? You would take 100 people and you will normally have about 45 people who would say this is half full, and another 45 people who would say it is half empty, and maybe 10 people who would say, I don't know, or it is everything, or it's both. And that's the problem, because they're all right. Yes, it is half full. Yes, it is half empty. Yes, it is filled with atoms. And yes, each of those atoms are filled with emptiness. So it is filled, it is empty, it is half full, it is half empty, it is nothing, it is everything, and all at the same time. And this is where spirituality is coming to bring this perspective. And we have this pendulum happening between science on one side, that is trying to reduce things to its smallest and easiest expression, and you have the spiritual realm that is taking the big picture and going towards infinity, and trying to say, well, this is also true. And that's where both are clashing. But the truth is that it is both. It is infinite and nothing at the same time. It is microcosm and macrocosm at the same time. And I wanted to share with you some of these paradox, who actually seems to be irrational, but which are in a way. So, for example, if you look at a goal and a journey, so the goal is focusing on the end of the path, where the journey is about experimenting the path. So the goal is the beginning and the goal. For example, the beginning and the end is the scientific perspective, saying you started here and you ended there. It's a relative perspective. And then you have the path, which is talking exactly about the same story, but from the voyager, like the person which is traveling. This is the journey, the path. Nothingness on one side, which is like going towards nothingness, towards total annihilation, the same way humanity is moving towards its annihilation with this so-called pandemic, this so-called crisis that we're going through, which is pushed by chaos. Chaos is bringing that thing into the world, so we can actually shift from the reality we were before to the reality we will be. So in one side we have that nothingness, and on the other side you have infinity. And there's big chances that there may be multi-level existence where people would actually leave the experience of going towards total annihilation and total amazement and bliss. And we may be at that carrefour where we could actually choose to go towards annihilation or towards infinity. And maybe, just maybe, infinite amount of existence are simultaneously happening, in which you are trying many different type of decisions, and we're all co-creating different type of decisions, and that the decision that you're taking are actually bringing you slowly and slowly and slowly towards the one that you decide. And this is what the law of attraction seems to demonstrate. Demonstrate that if you attract positiveness into your life, then you may actually go towards positiveness. And if you attract negativeness into your life, you will go towards negativity. So no matter if this theory is right or not, if multiverse are existing, if you are a spark of consciousness living the experience of separation through existence, no matter if this is true or not, the idea that you better work towards positiveness and positivity and focus on something that will have a positive outcome has all the benefits possible. There is no real benefits thinking that negative things are going to happen, because even if they're happening, well, there's no reason why you should think about it and worry about it before they actually happen, okay? Because no matter what you can do, you can prepare yourself, yes, but preparation never guarantees you that you will not go through this chaos with ease and peace, the way it normally happens all the time. Because normally the universe is only giving you what you can survive, what you can stand, what you can go through, if you're doing the job of being in line with yourself. So this segmentation can also be seen as those which are fragmented on one side. So the idea that you are separated in yourself, and the idea that you are one with yourself. So the scientific will segment things and give you portion of it, piece of it, and use like specific type of frequency, saying, oh, this is sound, and this is light, and this is electromagnetic, and this is plasma. But when you ask them the question of what is vibrating, what is the substance behind the vibration of light, of sound, of all this, they don't have a clue, because they refuse the idea that something may be underlying all the substance of the universe that the ancient civilization used to call ether. So they're using words, they're using names, and they believe that because they're using names, they can hide behind those names, so they wouldn't have to admit that there has to be an underlying ocean of energy that is allowing all the manifested existence to be observed. Okay, so if we look at order on one side and chaos on the other side, if we look at day and night, if we look at space and time, if we look at pi, which is defining the circle, so a circle is equidistant point around the center, and phi, which is the golden number, which is defining the spiral. Pi defines something that is still, balance, and phi defines something that is constantly in movement. The same way time and space, sphere and vortex, mathematics and geometry on one side, and poetry and music on the other side. Are they that different? Are they that different? Like many people said that music can be it requires music in a mathematical perspective, like Mozart and all the biggest composer in the world are all recognized as mathematical geniuses, not because they were speaking mathematics, but everything in reality is related to a bond, and mathematics is trying to define this bond. When you're doing 1 + 1 = 2, you're trying to see the relationship that one can have with another one, and how we can create groups around those concepts. The same way in geometry, when you define a square that is based on 4 angles, and they're each 90 degrees, 90, 90, 90, 90 degrees, so 360 degrees. 90 times 4 = 360. And a circle that is also based on 360 degrees, you're also trying to define a relationship between that which is angular, that which have angle and straight lines, and that which is circular, the same way pi and the golden number are working. So this separation between science and spirituality is a total illusion. I'm going to give you more example. Like if you look at left brain and right brain, yes, there is a difference. However, it is the brain that connects both. If you look at words and silence, how words could exist without silence, how silence could exist without words, or note of music and silence. We're trying to put names into things, to distinguish things without seeing what connects them and how they're all intricately connected. Like they're all intricately connected, but we don't see that. We much prefer focusing on what separates, like white people and black people. Like this is insanity. Like look at everything that connects them in terms of genes, in terms of blood, in terms of organs, in terms of bones, in terms of flesh, in terms of mind, in terms of mechanism. And because only one thing is changing from one person to another, which is the pigmentation of the skin or the structure of the lips or the structure of the nose or the eyes, because of that, we're all going to focus on that. It is as insane as saying that, oh, there's blonde woman and brunette, and they are different. Just because one single thing is separating them, where there's so many others that are connecting them. And we're doing that all the time. So we have like rock and roll on one side, and we have free jazz on the other side. We have Earth on one side, and we have the stars on the other side. What if everything was actually just backflip from each other? What if everything was just a negative picture of each other? And that you would just have to flip the perspective to actually just witness how you have been obsessed with one perspective just because you've chosen to be obsessed with that perspective, where you could have seen the other side of that perspective very easily and actually reveal the truth, which is a combination of perspectives. So we have the relative, which is interdependent on one side, and you have the absolute that is limitless on the other side. Okay, science is relative, spirituality is absolute. Which one is right? Which one is wrong? They're both right and wrong at the same time, because existence is a polarized experience between inner and outer, between up and down, between left and right, between past and future, between inner and outer, between experience and non-experience, like dream state. The dreams is a non-experience. However, you still experimented something. Okay, even if sometimes you wake up in the morning and don't remember that you dreamt about something, you still experimented something. It's not because you don't have the remembrance of something that it didn't happen. The same way, it's not because you forgot what happened in your past, some event of your past, that the event didn't happen. Okay. So when you're closing your eyes, when you open your eyes, you are nothing facing infinity. But when you're closing your eyes, you are infinity facing nothingness. You are like infinite things that cannot be defined, that is facing nothingness. Again, this is this flipped perspective on where you are. Observation of nothingness and the experience of infinity. When we're looking at the sky, for example, we seem to look at the vacuum being nothingness. But if you're starting to realize that nothingness is infinite in a certain way, then you are actually facing infinity. Which one is right, which one is wrong? Both are right and wrong. Rationality, ratio, measurable. And on the other side, we have reason. So ratio, rationality, is that which can be measured, that which can be compared, that which can be consensually observed in certain perspective, in certain condition. But on the other side, we have the reason. And the reason is the science of resonance. It's the science of connection. It's the science of that which oscillate together and form and morph together. And this is based on experience and discovery. Okay, so again, which one is right, which one is wrong? They're both right and wrong at the same time, because they're not universally experienced. However, they are individually experienced. Money possession is something that is more on the science perspective, which is about rationality. And on the other side, we have desire and experience. Again, which one is right and wrong? Present and timeless. So when you're present, you have the observation of being present, but the true state of being present is actually timeless, where you cannot even put a word on it. There's no word, because it's something that has to be experienced. You cannot experience the state of being creation at someone else's place. You have to experiment it yourself. All the words that one could use to share this experience, like the experience of enlightenment, of Kundalini, of DMT experiences, of all that, none of those words could even get close to the experience of being in that state. Okay, so that's the difference between speaking about the present and being that state of being present. So we have the illusion on one side, and we have the imagination on the other side. So illusion is a ill vision, and imagination is I am a nation of magic. Okay, so on one side I am, but I'm dictated by my vision, and on the other side I am that state of being magic, imagination. Television on one side and the edge of what I know. Television, and the edge of what I know. So I am the edge of what I know, which is the knowledge. Okay, the knowledge is just the edge of what I know, and on the other side, I just trust what I see. Government is govern the mind, and self-governance, which is you are your own sovereign in your own body. Obedience, replication, and reason, resonance. Anger, I am anger, which is the true things that we should say. We shouldn't say I am angry. We should actually say I am anger. So, which literally means I allow anger to overcome myself. Okay, because if you say I am angry, or I am anger, or I am sad, or I am stupid, or I am, you actually associate yourself with the fragmented perspective of yourself. So why people are fragmented? When we were born, we were one. We were one entity living the experience of the incarnation into a body. And slowly, months after months, weeks after weeks, the mind starting to structure itself through the brain and the frontal cortex and the structuration of the brain, and started slowly to leave the experience of the fragmentation. So slowly, like children are blind for a few weeks. I don't remember how many, like 6 or 8 weeks. They're blind. They can't see anything. Even if they open their eyes, they basically see a big blurry things. And the only thing that they know is that it's bloody painful. Like incarnation is bloody painful. The first thing that happened is that big cry when we're all getting out of our mother's womb. And slowly, from out of this big foggy experience, form is starting to happen. And the first reflex of children, of babies, is to actually identify themselves to this form that they start to see. So they start to see a wall, and they think they're the wall, and then they start to see a window, and they think they're the window. And one day, they cross the eyes of their mother, and for whatever reason, they start to think that they are their mother. And this is actually why we are all constantly trying to look at people's eyes first, because this is the first thing that really truly connects us with consciousness. And so when we start to go out of that state of dissociation, we start to walk and start to see that we have hands, and we start to see the world for what it is. And we slowly start to see the separation between the self and the projection, which is the experience. And slowly we start to forget that there was a time when we were one. We were just one. There was no separation. There was no body. There was no emotion. There was no mind. And there was no spirit. There was just one experience. But slowly we started to fall into the deception of the separation, of the what I call the fragmentation. So someone that, for example, let him or her body taking over the experience of reality and believe that your body is you, is living a fragmentation experience. It's actually letting one of its four perspectives, its four states, its four expression. There's many others, but let's summarize that to four: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. So if you believe that you're only a body, if you believe that you are just your emotions, if you believe that you're just what you think, or if you believe that you're only your soul, you are fragmented. Because the essence of who you are is the oneness that is happening when all those four states are actually in line with themselves. And there is no fragmentation, there is no separation. So to be fragmented is also to believe that you are your life story, that you are your identity, that you are what drives you to become who you are at the moment. This is another form of fragmentation. And unfortunately, we're living in a world where a lot of people are fragmented and they don't even know it. They are ignorant of the state of fragmentation that is happening inside of themselves. Government, as I mentioned before, is split into government. Ment mean mental, mind. So government actually literally means governing your mind. If you are in line with yourself, you are in self-governance. And this is what sovereignty, true sovereignty, is all about. It's about reunifying that which has been fragmented into oneness, into one experience. Physical, of course, emotional, obviously, intellectual, it has to be, and spiritual, because there's no other options. Everything has to be one. And if you believe that one needs to be more treated than the others, if you believe that your body has to be more cared for than your spirit, then you are living slowly, you're sliding slowly into the path of fragmentation. Okay, everything is important. The inner world is as important as the outer world. The science is as important as the spirituality. It seems that my presentation was condemning science. It is not. But I had to play a little bit the devil advocate about the case of spirituality, because we're living in such a rational world where people have been so programmed to only see one aspect of the physical and tangible experience, that I had to bring back that perspective so people could start to see the big picture. The small picture is what we have been given every day, which is for the purpose of control. Because there's a reason why we are instrumentalizing science to reduce people's perspective, because the more your perspective is small, and the easier we can be manipulated. And this is all entangled in the same game, like total control of our world by a minority of psychopaths. And we have to face this reality. This is about to blow up. Humanity is going to wake up from this deep state of sleep, and we have to reunify, be in line with ourselves, bring back all those fragments of ourselves into oneness, so we can actually act with a higher level of integrity, in alignment, to bring back peace to this world. Another type of perspective is, on one side, I am stupid, which is that you are judging yourself, you're rationalizing yourself, you're comparing yourself, you are using ratio to compare yourself. And another way of expressing it, which is, I give credit to the idea that I cannot think for myself, or that I'm not thinking enough, or that I am not enough, or that I'm not worthlessness, or that I'm not worthy of something. All those ideas, those detrimental ideas, those are poisonous again. Why? Because when you look at nature, do you have to thank trees to be trees? Do you have to thank grass to be grass? Or do you have to thank both to be what they are, because they couldn't exist without one without the other? A grass exists for the purpose of being a grass. A tree exists for the purpose of being a tree. If suddenly all the grass was destroyed, the tree would die, because the grass are bringing the carbon to the soil, and the soil is feeding the microorganisms that are breaking down this, and all these microorganisms are balancing the pH and allowing the water to be restrained by the roots, and because of that, the tree can be. So again, and by the tree being, it actually brings shade, and that shade allows the grass to grow and being safe and not being burnt if it's too dry. So it's a collaboration concept. It is not about judging each other and saying, oh, you are this and you are that, or you should be this or you should be that. Everyone has their purpose and their role in existence. Everything has a reason. Everything has a meaning. And we just forgot about that because we've been convinced to reduce our perspective to smaller and smaller and smaller. Another analogy is a knife and a hammer on one side and pen and paper on the other side. Okay, you can use knife and hammer to work on reality, or you can use pen and paper to work on another level of reality. Oral transmission, internet, books, and blockchain. For those who don't know what blockchain is, it's the technology behind the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Security and excitement, old and young. You know, all those duality, which actually seems to be separated, are actually two aspects of the same thing. And it's only because we are ignorant of this, the two sides of the coin, that we are playing this stupid war against ourselves and our evolution. So I think my presentation comes to an end because there's only just 5 minutes left. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. If you guys would like to be in touch with me, you can find me on YouTube. So Roman Light on YouTube, Sacred Arithmetic, sacredarithmetic.com, or my Telegram group, Roman Light, or Roman Light group chat, or group chat, I think. I'm always happy to speak with anyone. If you have any question, I'm happy to answer them. Hey, brother.
Thanks, Roman. Really appreciate your contribution. I did post the links in the chat. So they're actually in the chat. People can reference them and find you on Telegram or YouTube. And also, I've also shared your Sacred Arithmetic website as well for people that would like to have a look at the work that you've developed over the last 10 years or even more than that, I think. So, yeah, really appreciating all the nuggets and the bridging that you did between science and spirituality, and just opening our minds and coming back into a unified response, rather than kind of polarizing into one or the other. And yeah, did a great job to really offer another perspective, another way to really support us. So thanking you so much. I've had a look at the questions. I can't see any questions at this point in time. Let's just quickly scan through. Karen, I don't know if you've got any questions.
I've got a question. I loved what you said about governing our mental capacity, and I just went mind blown. And what do you think we should call the government if we don't call it government?
Well, I'm a big advocate of self-governance. So we just need today to use our common sense and just connect to our inner truth. We don't need any representation today. This time is over. We need to just organize and structure society in a way that we can actually question peoples directly, and so people can question them directly and have a reflector of the big governance system. But today, the way it's working, we're giving our right to people that are easily corruptible and are easily betraying all of us. And this dynamic needs to stop. We need to wake up of that massive hypnosis and remember that we are the power. We are the creators. We are the manifestors, and just wake up from this mass hypnosis and just reconnect to that inner self, travel in ourself, and see how we're all connected inside and outside.
Yeah, fair enough.
We do have a question. We've got a question, which is, could you please say a bit about the role of free energy in our future? We've got 3 minutes left. So 3 minutes.
3 minutes on free energy. Well, just quickly, energy is never created. Energy is harvested. Energy is there. Energy is the sublayer of creation. There's nothing else than energy. The energy, the way we talk electricity, is just one aspect of the energy, and the elite are hiding a lot of technology that are capable of harvesting and manifesting energy the way we could have access to so-called free energy, which is being able to travel for free, doing teleportation, anti-gravitational technology. This is a big topic that I worked on for years, and that is connected to my work in mathematics and the structure of the matrix. So I'm happy to dive into that, but maybe not in 2 minutes. So the role of free energy in our future would be to free humanity from the necessity to care for our bodies, because our bodies would be then care easier for. But the bigger question is not that much about free energy. The bigger question is about ethic and moral, and a big consensus about what do we define as life and existence, and up to where are we happy to go in notion of transhumanism and human evolution of consciousness. Those are much more important questions to know consciously what are we deciding, because if we don't ask those questions, others will answer for us, and this is what we need to act right now upon.
And this is really, the expansion of our consciousness to be able to hold those ideas that you're talking about. And again, the balance between consciousness and then the development of technology, and the relationship, or the harmonic balance and the relationship between those two elements.
Yeah, and that's where ethic and moral are essential, because at the moment we let money control our world and politics. It is now time for people to stand for their life and their existence, and say that their existence has value, and we cannot just let money take over our life.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much, Roman. Much appreciation. Many blessings.
Amazing.
Thank you, everyone, for organizing this beautiful event. Have a beautiful day.